Yeah, it looks okay now. Yeah, I think it's, I think audio is fine. Hopefully we can keep it up. And hopefully, the connection will cut out. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, hello guys. It's been a little bit. Been a couple of days since the last time I've kind of done. I've been on this channel. It's been a little bit since I've made an episode of whatever this series is. And this series that I kind of do up here is to just talk about certain things. Either it pertains to The Last of Us Part 2 or just The Last of Us in general. And my last video that I did, it was on the role of Jesse in The Last of Us Part 2. And I stated many times, it wasn't really a critique of his character in the game and his role in the game. It was more of a criticism that I have of The Last of Us Part 2 when it comes down to his characters. Not to say their characters were bad, it's just that I wish they were a little bit more realistic. And so yeah, that was the last time that I made a video or like an episode of this. And so I thought, and I got this idea because I've said this before, but I've got this idea because I keep seeing it all over YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. I see it all the time, and when you see it all over the place, you want to talk about it because it just seems that people don't understand that there's a consequence for everything that happens. And that's exactly how it is with this game. There's a consequence for every single decision you make. And you would think that people would really understand that, and not just, in this game, but also in life, that there are consequences, and things happen to you when you do stuff. And so I've named the title of this video, The Consequence of Vengeance, because vengeance is obviously revenge. It's a pretty powerful desire and a powerful emotion. And it stems and it originates in it really the source of vengeance is pain and injustice. And what you're willing to do to receive and to bring about justice. And vengeance and justice are not the same thing. Justice is supposed to be about law. When you have justice, you bring someone before a court, and they pretty much nail you to the wall with the law. They nail you to it, like, do not murder, do not do this, don't do that. They nail you to that. That's justice. In other words, it doesn't have emotion. It's just straightforward, and it's not something that's complicated. It's just straightforward to the point, and there's no emotion tied to it. Revenge is revenge. Revenge, it has emotion. And it's someone who has had something unjust happen to them, and they're pursuing something that's unjust. It's very remarkable how that works, because that's exactly what Ellie's doing. She's not pursuing justice. She talks about it a lot. She talks about it all about getting justice, but she's not chasing justice. And in a world like that, there is such a thing as justice in that world. There's not even right or wrong anymore. It's just what's right to you. It matters depending on the perspective of who's the bad guy and who's the good guy. And that's kind of what's going on with this, with revenge. Because, once again, as someone who has studied it, I've understood. I've experienced revenge. I've experienced it, and it doesn't get you anywhere. And I know exactly where when I was in the middle of playing The Last of Us Part 2, right when Abby kills Jesse and pretty much handicaps Tommy, I realized where this was going. I was honestly, I was surprised that I was going to spend the next couple of hours playing as Abby. I was kind of surprised by that. I didn't see that coming. I honestly thought that this would be the game, and though I was very surprised, but I knew either way, if it was going to continue playing as Ellie or you're going to play as Abby, it didn't really matter. I knew exactly where they were going with this. They were going with this in a pretty dark direction, and I kind of knew that Abby was really going to probably kill everybody, because she almost did. She almost killed everyone in there. She killed Jesse. She almost killed Tommy. Yeah, she almost killed Ellie. Then she almost killed Dina. I mean, she's just going on a rampage. She just goes nuts. And I knew that how it is. And you don't even have to look. And it's not. And many people could really make that conclusion because how she is. She's just bulky, dude. She's scary. And I kind of knew exactly where they were going with that because of my own personal experiences with revenge. And not only that, but it never works out. Sometimes it may, but at the end of it, there's no peace. There's no, that thing that that revenge would tell you. It's gonna do something. It's gonna change. It's not gonna change anything, but it'll make you feel better. That's a lie. It doesn't make you feel better. It makes you feel actually it makes you feel worse than how you felt previously and originally. So. The reason that I'm bringing this up is because of the consequence of what would happen if Ellie killed Abby. I've heard it so many times. Oh man, the Last of Us Part 2 should have ended that way. Well, then there would be a problem. Okay. One of the things that I care about a lot in any type of entertainment is the realism of characters. I have a hard time getting into something that it's not realistic. In the sense of this, that if someone in a movie goes off and starts killing people, and then killed the person that they hated, and then they kind of return back to how they were and they felt fine, either that person is not a human being, or two, it's not realistic. And so if Ellie killed Abby and then didn't have any problems, wasn't unsatisfied, to be honest with you, if she didn't go deeper into that dark hole that she was always in, then that would be very unrealistic. And The Last of Us Part 2 has to be realistic for me, because then they're not human. And if they're not human, you can't really relate to someone who's not human. And that's why I tell people that I can't get behind Abby or Ellie killing Abby, because there's only one cause that's going to come out of this, one effect that's going to happen. Is going to happen because of her killing Abby, and that's she's just not going to be human anymore. Her humanity is going to be flushed away, and that's just what that has to be what it's going for. So that's why I tell people you need to understand that this is a huge problem when we say that, because we don't want to say that and then not understand the consequences of that. Because I think of things like cause and effect, I don't think of things like, this happens, but let's not bother what happens afterwards. You do something, you reap what you sow. Things happen. There are a cause and there's effect. The things that you do, they have effects. There's like the butterfly effect, man. The things that you do will really, really, really kind of, to draw out your rest of the story. It will really do things to you when you start just randomly doing stuff. So that's why I'm not a big fan of the alternate scene, or whatever you want to call it, of Abby and Ellie's last fight in the Last of Us Part 2 at the end of it. I'm glad she didn't, because knowing Naughty Dog, they would have done something far worse than they did in this one. Because one of the first complaints of the game was that Ellie was looked at as murderer, this remorseless killer who just was killing everyone. She looked like the bad guy. And if we went down that road with Ellie killing Abby at the end of the game, then that would look like it would. I mean, the cause or the effect of that, it would make Ellie's her rampage like on steroids. Okay, she would have no emotions. She would have no remorse. Her humanity practically was gone. You know, once again, it would take away her. It would take away the very piece of her that was human. That 14-year-old girl would be gone, and Ellie wouldn't really be Ellie anymore. To be honest with you. And like I said, I think they first intended for Ellie to kill Abby, but they changed it because, like this, it was going to affect Ellie. It was not going to be realistic, and it's not realistic enough. Now, once again, I'm not saying that the characters weren't realistic, but they weren't realistic to my standard. I'll just say that. To my standard, they weren't realistic enough. And once again, I tell you this before. There are times where they show real, authentic emotion, like when Abby found her dad dead because Joel killed him, or when Mel told her about everyone she's around just ends up dead, and you're just a piece of crap human being, and you just cause all destruction and death, and instead of their lives, because you're going to ruin that too. And that's when she got pretty emotional. I was like, okay. But I almost was actually a little bit more. I honestly was looking forward to what Abby's 3 days was going to be like, because, like I said, because that scene that she had, she cried so passionately, and you can see it in her face that she was in pain. But it's like she forgot about it. Like the pain just went away and blew away. And I understand. Okay, I understand. That we can become cold to it, I guess, and we can even forget about it. But when you bring it up, when you bring up the person or in a certain event, or even just like I said, you go into, like, for example, like when Abby and Manny and Mel went into the garden, they thought about Abby's dad's little garden that was like practically dead, and the plants there were alive, and so they kind of made a joke about it. But you would think that would cause like bad memories, but it didn't. It caused good ones, which I thought that was kind of not odd, but I thought it was very neat. But I just didn't think it was real. I wanted again. I want it to be authentic, because every time that's happened to me, maybe it's because of the way that I've lost people. The way that I've lost people are not fun. They've never really been fun. Losing people, nonetheless, is not something that you should really, something you should lose people. It's not something that's fun. But she lost her dad because someone killed him. Someone murdered him, and you would think that'd be a lot more traumatic, and she would be a little bit more distant and angry, frustrated because killing Joel didn't do nothing. So it's just once again, I really, really wish they did a little bit more. Not to say their acting was bad, I just because it wasn't bad, it was really, really good. There were times where it was amazing and fantastic and just really good, but then there was like this. Then they just went from one to another, and it was like, oh, that's why I almost enjoyed. I was really interested to see what they were going to do with Abby, because if they're going to treat her the way that I think they're going to treat her, especially with that emotional scene with Owen and her dad and her, you would definitely understand. You would definitely understand. You would have that anticipation, the expectation that this would be a character that was going to show emotion. I think someone just here. So that's my kind of thinking about this entire thing, because I just don't get some of the things, because we don't really think, what are the consequences of our actions? What are the consequences of doing this? And we think it's a game, and it is a game, but we don't realize that Naughty Dog, they create off of realistic realistic scenarios. They grab how life works and they put it in a video game. That's what happened with Joel. Joel killed a lot of people to save someone he loved. And you were prone. He was prone to be killed by these people because he took away all their life practically, and took away their family, their friends, and their pretty much their purpose. And it would be very, very weird that to expect anything less than someone coming after you and trying to kill you, So, that's what I think about That's what I think about this entire thing when people bring up the alternate ending for The Last of Us Part 2 for the ending. It's like we have to think about this because what are the consequences? What are the consequences for her doing that? There wouldn't be an Ellie left. She'd just go completely rogue. She'll go rogue from the first game. That little girl that we had in the first game would not be there. She'd be gone. There's no way that you can kill someone that hurt you and then walk away fine and be the same. No. And not to mention, she lost her finger, so she couldn't play the song anymore. So she couldn't play Future Days anymore. And so it's just, it's a very, there's just so many things that could have happened. If she did that, everything would have changed. Everything. The future of this entire series would have changed drastically because that makes Ellie this person who, one, has killed her enemy, and she's still unsatisfied, and thus she doesn't care anymore. She barely has she has no humanity left. And it's also really good that she found peace within herself with Joel, because once again that ending was great. I don't think it could have ended any better. I'm not a fan that we kill Abby. I really did not think, because not necessarily that I don't want Abby to die. No, it's because I don't want Ellie to die. And obviously she's not talking about physically, but her character, her personality. I didn't want her going. I didn't want her dying. I liked the girl from the first game. I love the girl. I love the girl in the second game. But if she would have killed Abby, that girl would be gone. She'd be gone. And once again, people they have their own opinions, and it's once again, I don't lord it over people. I don't do that. I speak my mind. I'm not afraid to tell what I think, and I think that they did a good job of the game. It's just that I have a few little criticisms that I wish that they did differently. And that they would do a better job on them. But once again, I've learned to love this game because I'm not okay with spending as many years that I have been passionate about this, and then for me to be just disappointed in it. I'm not okay with that, and I don't think anyone should be okay with doing that. You should not invest your time, your money, and your time and your money, and then be disappointed in the end. That's like getting bankrupt. That's like depositing and like trying to save money up for a certain thing, and then you get bankrupt at the end. It's like a really messed up ending. So no, you don't want to do that. No one should ever do that. They should find a way to love this game. And unfortunately, people just don't like it. They just don't like it, and I understand why they don't like it. At first, I did. At first I didn't hate the game. I don't hate the game now. But it did caught me off. It did caught me off guard. It caught me off guard so many times. I did not imagine that I was going to be playing as Abby and I would be beating up Ellie. It was like really torture for me. I couldn't not stand. I could have a hard time doing it, and it's because that's kind of how they made the story. They made the story in such like a dark story where it wasn't fun to play. Or let me back up and restate that. It's fun to play, but it's not fun to watch. It's fun to play, the combat and everything. The combat's insane. I love it. But the story itself, it is so painful to watch. Because you have one individual, a character that you love so much, and she's just going down this rabbit hole. and it's never ending. You know, she's getting deeper and deeper with obsession, deeper and deeper with bloodlust, just going deeper and deeper and getting farther away from humanity. I mean, she's just, all that happens, and then to watch her then pay the price for her revenge, for paying the price for all this stuff, because once again, it's a cycle of violence. I would implore you guys, and I would tell you guys to, if you ever get the time, play The Last of Us Part 2, and keep an ear on the music that's being played. Then go check out the soundtrack. And you're going to see that there's a reason why they do that. They give them titles for a reason. And you remember when, after Abby pretty much destroys everyone, Ellie, Edina, kills Jesse, and pretty much, once again, handicaps Tommy, after all that stuff happens, you hear that intense music. It's so intense. And it's called a cycle of violence. And you learn a lot from that. And I'm hoping one day I'm going to be going over that. Hopefully, Lord willing, I'm going to be going over that. I'm going to be going over the soundtrack and how they're synonymous to the story. Because I really do want to go over that, because I think it's very important. Music is very important in Last of Us. And so yeah, but that's all that really I have to say about this alternate ending thing, how it should have happened. You got to deal with the consequences. You can't just say, you know what, let's just kill her. Let's Abby or Ellie kill Abby. Just let her kill her. All right, just kill her. And then to think, you know what, she'll go back to, no. There's a consequence for doing this. That's the point of The Last of Us Part. That was kind of one of the biggest points of The Last of Us Part 2, is that the things that you do, there's consequences for you do them. Either you do it for, either it be done out of love or not. There are consequences for the things that you do. And I mean, it happened to Joel, and it happened to Ellie. Ellie killed some of her closest friends, and then she and Abby went over there and almost killed all hers. All right? It's just a cycle of violence. And you know what happened afterwards? Abby, when she told her, I better not see you again. Well, guess what? When Ellie got back to Jackson, he says, I'm going to go find her. I'm going to kill her. I'm going to find her. Because what she did, she killed Jesse. Cycle of violence. It's just this endless cycle of blood, and it's never ending until a person is willing just simply to walk away and to just let it go. And Ellie was the person that did that, And you would think, well, I would say that Abby was the first to do it, but I think Ellie was the one who really just stopped. Because it's really hard to stop a feud when both of them will not walk away. It's very hard to end that. It actually gets more harder, It gets more intense because there's a person who's already walked away. They've already walked away. They've already let it go, and now the other person's not. And so that's how kind of the ending was. You can see Abby let it go. She just didn't care. She didn't care anymore. She didn't care about the feud that she had with her like a year ago. She didn't care because she was pretty much beaten, and God knows what happened to her, and she cared only about love. That's all she cared about. And you kind of had like a Joel and Ellie type of you had like a Joel and Ellie type of story going on. It's kind of like an echo of that, But it was a really good. It was really good. I hear the theories and I hear the alternate endings that people want, but we don't think about what's going to happen to the characters because they are human beings. They have a capacity to be insane and to become remorseless and practically a monster. And that was one of the things that I really did not want them doing. I was scared from time to time, especially when Ellie started torturing Nora. I was actually getting kind of scared. I was like, holy crap. She's going nuts. And what is going to happen to her character? Is she going to be the same girl that she's been with? I know she's obviously not going to be the same, but will that little girl still be in there by the end of this? By the end of the story, will that little girl still be there? And she is. She is still there, and that's why I'm glad Naughty Dog went down that take, because there wouldn't be that 14-year-old girl in the first game wouldn't be there anymore. She'd be dead, And that's what I mean. That it's not that I didn't want Abby to die. It's just I didn't want Ellie's 14-year-old caring heart to die, because that would have been really sad. Because it would really defeat the purpose of Joel and Ellie's relationship. It would have really destroyed it. They wouldn't have a relationship really anymore because that old girl died. Because for 5 years, Ellie hated him. For 5 years, or 4 to 5 years, there had been like this enmity between the two of them. And it's never been that way. And when they finally reconciled, he dies the next day. So it's like, holy crap. And it's pretty crazy, man. It's pretty crazy. And so that's why I want to get my thoughts on this, because once again, I am very passionate about this area, because I hate the idea that one of the characters that I love the most, probably the most loved character I have, is Ellie. She is one of the few characters that I have emotionally been attached to. And so yeah, I think that the story should stay the way that it should, and I don't think it should change, because if it does change, or if we even think that it might change, that little girl will be dead. She'd be gone, and I don't want, and I'm pretty sure no one will want that to happen. That 14-year-old girl to be dead, because if you do, then but if you don't realize that, you must have not, you either one, didn't like the first game, you didn't care about her in the first game, you just didn't really care about the first game. But if you care about the first game as much as I do, you're going to care about where she goes and who she's going to be in the future. I can definitely see that they could make Last of Us 3, not Part 3, because I don't really think there should be a Part 3 to the story. I think that it ended quite well, considering, but I do want a third one. Different story, different characters. With JJ, with Dina and Ellie's son. I really would like to see that. I would like to see that, where they can do with him, because I would like to see how he might have something bad happen to him, and he'd be angry and be vengeful, and Ellie would try to stop him from doing it, because she's been down that road. She knows that nothing's going to be solved. That's just something that I thought about the other day. That was it was kind of an interesting thing to think about. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of that wish list, if you call it that wishing idea that she should kill her because she killed Joel and stuff. But there'll be consequences for it. And if you don't, you're not dealing with it realistically. There's no way that someone can do something like that and then walk away the same. They're not. Their part of them would die. Okay, they wouldn't. It doesn't go away. And that's kind of what happened with Abby. And once again, that's one of the reasons why I had a hard time following her character. Was because she just didn't really. She wasn't living up to her trauma. You can realize that it looked like she got better after Joel died. I was like, what the heck? That's not how it works, Once again, it's not human. There's just no way. And the way that she cared for her, and I can actually see a person who just doesn't care. His humanity is just gone. But her humanity isn't gone. Her humanity isn't. The reason that she helped Lev and Yara was because she felt guilty about what she did to Joel. I just wish they did. I wish they made it so obvious that she really was not satisfied. She was angry, she was unsatisfied, and she was guilty, And that by making her quiet, making her angry, making her, lashing out at everybody else. There are certain types of symptoms and things that we do when we're angry, when we're sad, when we're very emotional, and we are dealing with very negative emotions. And so I just think that they could have. I just wish they did it more. I just really wish they did, because I think the game would have been a lot more. For me, it would have been so much. The story would be so much more. Not just. I'm not saying dark, because God, I don't want it more darker than it already is. It's already dark enough. But I want it to be also realistically dark. And I just felt like that was the one component that I believe that was missing. Though, once again, I'm not the belittling there because of this Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog has created some of the best games in the world. So I'm not really going to judge them. But that just, as someone who's a writer and who creates stories but also is a fan of this game, it is the one thing that I admire more than anything in any story is to make the characters human. Even if they're like, even if it's like a fantasy novel, okay, like monsters and stuff like that, you can make those characters human. Because human beings are not called humans because, we're mortal. And we look like this, because we're humanoids. No, that's not really why we're called humans. You would think humans are because we're emotional creatures. We have emotions. We have habits. There's things that we do, and you can make anybody have any human trait. And that's one thing. If it's not relatable, realistically relatable, then no. One of the greatest, because I'm playing Red Dead Redemption 2 all over again, Arthur Morgan is one of the most realistic characters ever seen in a video game. They did him good. Okay, he did him good. That character build for that character was insanely good. Whoever wrote the story for this, they had to be really good at writing stories because this story was great. And and once again, it was a great story. The character was so good. He was the most human related character I've seen in a long time. So yeah, I'm not a really big fan of changing the ending or thinking about it, and making theories about it and thinking about what, that's the best ending. Honestly, in my opinion, I don't think it's the best ending. I think that could be the worst one. Because, it's very ironic that she would kill Abby, but yet she was killing herself. She was taking away something part of her. She was taking something away from her own person. And that girl wouldn't be there anymore. She wouldn't be Ellie anymore. She'd be a different person. That person that you saw killing Seraphites and the WLF and killing Nora, that woman, that's the girl that we would see. You wouldn't see the Ellie in the first game. You wouldn't see the compassionate. You would just see that girl in the second game the majority of the time, where she was pretty much, like I said, when she tortured Nora, dude, honestly, I got scared. I was really terrified in a sense. I was like, holy crap, man, she's going nuts. And you could tell that she was getting angry. And then after she did it, I'm glad they didn't show the scene, because I would hate to see that. Because the girl, Nora, was already dying from spores, and so just to make it even worse, she was going to beat her with a pipe. And she pretty much beat her with a pipe, and then, it goes black. And then you appear back to the theater where Dina and Jesse are, and she's shaking, and she has blood over her face, and her, air. I'm like, holy crap, dude, she's gone officially nuts. Not to mention, after, Jesse and her and Dina stays behind because she's pregnant, and so she's, they're going out there and they're trying to go find Abby in the aquarium. Well, there's a point in where they, on the radio, on a WF radio, they hear about Tommy. And so Tommy's like, hey, and Jesse's like, hey, wait, he's over here, let's go get him and let's leave. And he's like, no, I'm not leaving. She was obsessed, dude. She really wanted her dead. And so the story is just so, it's so good at times. And then I'm like, man, why didn't you guys just make it so real? It could have been such a great thing. It should be so good. And that's the only thing I would have changed. I'm not even asking you to change the direction of any of the story. Just the realistic, the realism of the characters and their humanness. That's all that I have. That's the only critique I really have of this game. Any other than that, no. I'm not really angry with the game. I'm actually quite happy the way that it's been put together. And it's not because, I figured out how to do it. It's just that I've learned to. Because I'm not okay with it, and people are. I'm not okay. I'm not okay with being disappointed like that, and I'm not okay with just hating a game that I've been so passionate about and love so much. I wasn't okay with it. And so I said, no, I'm going to find a way to love this game. If it's just one thing in this game that I love, that's fine. And there are plenty of them. one of my favorite parts, and I want to go over more of this in detail in a future video, but is with Tommy sniping, dude. I love that. That was probably one of the greatest things I've ever seen in a video game. Is when that happened, I didn't know who it was at first, but then he started shooting the windows to other cars, and shooting like cars and the windows of the cars to draw the infected. And I remember a flashback. I remember a flashback of Tommy telling Ellie to do the same thing. I was like, oh man, this is Tommy. And I didn't know Tommy was that good, by the way. I had no idea Tommy was that bad, all right? I didn't know he was that tough. All right, he was killing like just squadrons of the WLF. Then he killed Manny, and he's just killing everyone. He's just going around, and you hear about him like throughout all the days. They cannot kill him at all. It's just him versus like the entire WLF, and he's just killing all the squads that he comes across. It's just crazy, man. Honestly, he's a crazy sniper too, dude. It's crazy. That's why I really enjoyed that. It was a great. It was just great. I loved it, and I think that was one of the best things in the game, which is that encounter, which is phenomenal. Though it went sour for me when, obviously when Yara got involved. Because it seems like Abby, as strong as she is, she gets a lot of help. She gets a lot of help, and that didn't really sit well with me either. But I know that I just said that I wouldn't change the characters and I wouldn't change the story, but it doesn't mean that there are certain things in the story that I wouldn't want to change. So yeah, it kind of went sour for me when that happened. I was like, oh. Gonna ruin it? Come on, man. I was really into that. I was really into what was gonna happen. And yeah, that was one of the greatest things about the game. That sniping thing, that was nuts, dude. And I can't wait to play the multiplayer of this game. I can't wait to play that. I really can't wait to see how that's gonna pan out. So, I have to get a PS5. I'll get a PS5. That's just how it's going to work. But that's pretty much it. I don't really have much. I just wanted to get up here and talk a little bit about all the stuff for The Last of Us Part 2. And I really hope that I really hope that the factions come out soon, because I do not want to get a PS5 to play the game. I don't want it. I don't know if it is. I don't think it is, because they were working on factions, as it was leading up to the release of Last of Us Part 2. There was like a leading up to it, and they were already making it, and they just told it to stop. But if they have completely changed it and say, you know what, let's go for a PS5, I was like, look, and I guess I'll get a PS5. They just got to give a release date. Got to just give us the release date, because I don't want them to tell me, oh hey, it's after Christmas and Last of Us Factions Part 2. It's like, oh, it's on PS5, $60. Like, oh crap, you got to pay like what, $500 or something like that for the PS5, and then just to get the game. It's like, it's nuts, man. And I just got me a PS4 Pro last year, so I really honestly do not want to get another console, but not just another console, but a new generational console for the same exact company and the exact same I can't find the word, material, I guess. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to really say about that, because once again, it's just, it's a very, very great, it's a great game. If anyone's gonna play it, play the first game first, then play the second one. Obviously, you don't play a part 2 before playing part 1. But if you do not like games that are dark and where characters' lives are not really valued. Because that's life, man. Especially in this world. And the world that they're living in, it's a life where just no one's life. Only people care about their own life. They care about their own life, and they care about their family's life. That's it. And unfortunately, that is how it is today. Unfortunately, in our world. Unfortunately. Because sometimes there is no distinction between the world, the Last of Us, and then the world in our world. Which is very, very sad. But, I don't really, to get back, just to say what I mean and just kind of end our discussion on this, it would just mean this, that if we were to change it, there would be massive consequences. And there would have to be. Because then it's just not realistic anymore. And I have a hard time being in a story that's not realistic, doesn't make the characters human. Once again, that's why Red Dead Redemption 2 will always have a special place in my heart, because of how human they've made the character, Arthur Morgan. Arthur Morgan was such a human character. He was like this guy who was just, he was just a bank robber and like a, gang member and, all that stuff. But over time, he was never really a bad dude. Over time, he got TB. Then he started becoming more nicer and kind, and I really like that. I really like that about the story. Now, obviously, you can go a different way, but I always go the honorable way because I like him that way. I like him that way, and I like the story that way. And there's one final thing I want to say about the people that try to, they want to have it that way. You gotta remember, Last of Us Part 2 is not a Marvel movie. It's not. It's not a Marvel movie. It doesn't have this lighthearted setting, in this heroic lighthearted setting. No, it's pretty dark, and it's pretty. There are no heroes. It's just survivors, people who just kill and they kill and they kill and they survive, and they try to live. And so that's just how it is. Okay, that's just how it is. And so yeah. That's all I have to say for this episode. I don't know what I'll be going after next. Who knows? I might go over the sniping, Tommy being a sniper and everything, over that. But, who knows? But anyways, guys, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate all the support you guys show to this. I really do. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night. And I'll see you guys in the next one. All right. See you guys later.